Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Federal employee unions are suing the Trump administration for including a new essay question on most job applications. One of the questions asks candidates how they plan to advance the Trump administration's priorities. Plaintiffs in the lawsuit say that amounts to a loyalty test for the nonpartisan civil service. Federal News Network's Jory Heckman is here with more details. Jory, thanks for coming by.
Hey, Terry. Great to be here.
What is the question at the center of this lawsuit?
Yeah, so it's one of several questions that have been introduced as part of the administration's new merit hiring plan. And this question asks candidates applying for federal jobs how they plan to advance the president's executive orders and policy priorities, and to name one or two specific executive orders or policy initiatives that are significant to the candidate and how they would implement those policies if they were hired.
What does the union object to specifically about that question?
Yeah, so this lawsuit is being led by three unions here: the American Federation of Government Employees, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, and then the National Association of Government Employees. They all say that this question does amount to a loyalty question, and that these are responses that factor into who advances to the next round of the hiring process and who doesn't, and that this gives the Trump administration the opportunity to weed out people who are not aligned with its policy goals. The central focus of the lawsuit here is they say that this question violates candidates' free speech rights because candidates either have to align to a certain viewpoint, say basically the right things to advance to the next round of hiring, or to be chilled in their speech, knowing that if they say something that is perhaps counter to what the administration is looking for, that they would not get advanced to the next round of questioning. The other concern raised with the court here is that this violates the Privacy Act because it is collecting unnecessary and irrelevant information about an employee's viewpoints.
So what's the status of the case?
So this was introduced to the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts. We'll see whether the judge, in a matter of probably in the next couple of days, week or so, whether there is some sort of injunctive relief, whether they step in and say this question can't be used or not. But this is a question that's been around since the spring, I believe since May, and so it has been used to great effect already, and it's something that many candidates have been encountering. And one thing that's been raised through this lawsuit is that this is something that is impacting employees who have already gotten a layoff notice and they're trying to find other work within the federal government. They point to the Education Department. They are one agency here where they, at this point, through layoffs and voluntary incentives, they've shed about half of their workers, and they are now filling many of the same positions that they just let people go from. They are now hiring for those same positions, rehiring, and they are now asking these questions. And so that is something that the union is flagging as well, basically saying that these are not jobs that the department says are no longer necessary, but they're asking for candidates who align to these loyalty questions.
That's really interesting. What has the administration said in response to the union's concerns and the litigation?
Right. So pretty soon after we saw the rollout of this merit hiring plan, we saw guidance from the Office of Personnel Management. They told agencies that this question is non-mandatory. It's encouraged for agencies to put it out there. And so there's a scenario where candidates just leave the field blank. They don't fill it out, and they still can complete the job application. It's not like it's going to be a required field and you can't click submit. OPM says that the question shouldn't be used as a political litmus test and that the scores won't be ranked or scored in any kind of way. And the unions were quick to push back on that. They acknowledge that's what OPM is saying, but they do point to the fact that these are responses that will be reviewed by the people in charge of the hiring decisions, as well as political appointees in the Trump administration. And they say, of course, this question will play some role in the hiring process. Otherwise, why would they include it in the first place?
Sure. If you're an applicant and it says this is optional, and yet you really know that you're not going to be considered without completing it. You're going to try to drive on and figure out what the right answers are, right?
You'd think, yeah.
Well, and there was some talk at the beginning that this was a question that was perfectly designed to apply AI to. And then the administration came out and said, no, you can't use AI in your application process, right?
That is something that does appear on these job applications on USA Jobs, is that candidates are forbidden for using generative AI tools like ChatGPT to respond to these questions.
So what do you think happens next? While the case moves forward, the questions will persist.
Yeah, and they have persisted in a pretty significant way here. The numbers provided in this lawsuit, the plaintiff unions say that this question has appeared on about 5,800 federal job applications so far, and that a significant bulk of them, about 1,700 of them, have been posted since the start of the government shutdown. And this really does cover the waterfront in a pretty big way. It appears in everything for applications to be a meat cutting worker at the Defense Department, to a research biologist at the Agriculture Department, to a laundry worker at the Department of Veterans Affairs. And the unions, again, they say this question and the response to it, or non-response to it, has no bearing on whether candidates are qualified to do the work, do the job.
And those numbers are even while we're in a fairly broad federal hiring freeze. If the shutdown ends and hiring picks up again, I suppose that application will be even more expansive.
That's right. Yeah, we have been largely in a hiring freeze for much of this fiscal year and for much of this calendar year. And there, are some signs of that falling to some degree. There's this whole idea that for every 4 federal employees who leave government agencies are allowed to bring one new one in. But that there's some signs that some people are going to have to be coming in the door here to replace people who have left.
Well, Federal News Network's Jory Heckman. Jory, thanks for bringing us this story. It will be interesting to see how it plays out in the coming weeks.
It sure will. Thanks, Terry.
You can find his story at federalnewsnetwork.com.